Hey folks, it's Will. I had a few moments and I wanted to do a quick rundown on the faiths in Dystopia Rising. You've got a lot of options on things you can choose, and these are all designed to be used with the Dystopia Rising setting. And you know, they're cool, kind of extra bit of flavor, and adds extra layers of potential roleplay and conflict to the setting. Now, before I dive into these, I want to mention that there are no real faiths used in the Dystopia Rising setting. Well, one, because those were kind of scraped away as everything, became radioactive and undead filled. And two, because, real faiths are a source of, pride for some and conflict for some as well. And we want to make sure that this is a space where you can come to have a good time that is full of, wonderful, like, pretend experiences. And if you want to have pretend conflict, that's amazing. But I don't want to attach your pretend conflict to someone's real faith. So having said all that, let's get a quick entry-level detail on the faiths of Dystopia Rising. So starting at the top of the list, we have the Church of Darwin. So the Church of Darwin believes in, kind of radical evolution. They are big fans of radiation, and they are often found with groups that kind of run the range from actively helpful to actively not helpful. If you enjoy exploring the themes of, radiation and the fun that kind of role play can bring, the Church of Darwin is a great spot for that, because they're all about what wonders radiation can bring to the strains once they're exposed. Thankfully, strains don't have the exact same reaction that people do, so not everybody just immediately just croaks when exposed to too much radiation. There's a chance, but yeah. So kind of sitting on the exact opposite side of the love of all things radioactive, we find the cult of Fallow hopes. They are the closest thing to a paramilitary force, like a dedicated paramilitary force, because their main thing is bringing the fight to the undead. Now, with that comes a lot of hardline views about radiation, about the undead, and because of that, Fallow hopes and Church of Darwin often find themselves in conflict. Fortunately, it is a fictional conflict that when you go, I want to do Church of Darwin, or I want to do Cult of the Fallow hopes, you're diving into. So if you are a fan of camouflage and the paramilitary aspect of the apocalypse, this might be your thing. So a group that has friction with pretty much everybody is the Final Knights. Now, the Final Knights basically believe that the world that we live in right now is actual hell, or whatever version of the bad place that you got, and they're kind of edgelordy, full of angst, and the world is suffering and stuff like that. Most of them are actively horrible. Some of them are only angsty and, kind of, woe is the world, I have to suffer and be a monster so that other people won't be monsters. But mostly they're antagonistic. So if you're interested in playing one of these, make sure that you know that there's a good chance that this is going to be a highly character versus character antagonistic experience, while the Fallow and the Church of Darwin have conflicting views. Pretty much everybody is not cool with Final Nights. And people who want to do Final Night roleplay tend to be okay with that. So going from the very contentious to the less contentious is the Light of Heathen. They use the triple X as their heraldry, their symbolism, and they're basically live today like it's your last day on Earth. And they espouse the like the 7 deadly sins that we would have like today, wrath, sloth, envy. They espouse them as mangled versions that are seen as virtuous, but they actually take it in a positive direction. So it's something that is seen as kind of what, and kind of a rebellion against that. But they can be really good folks. They can focus on, being good hosts, fighting the bad guys, and we don't seem to have a lot of them here in Oklahoma. Nuclear family. The nuclear family is a group of folks that believe the family unit is the core and the most important thing you need to survive the apocalypse. They have roles that are based on, father knows best, leave it to beaver, those archetypal nuclear family structures that were very popular in the 50s. Now, however, those structures are not still tied to gender norms. So you may have someone that carries the label of father that, wouldn't stereotypically match that, film footage from the 50s. And that's cool. And that's actually something that you'll find pretty frequently in the nuke fam. They are kind of on the outside, very apple pie, wholesome, but not universally. And there's fun with that too. So I mentioned, father knows best and leave it to beaver. For those that are super into, classic television tropes, we have a faith called the Telling Visionaries. And they are all about the kind of taking the lessons that pop culture, television would have brought us, like older stuff usually, nothing like contemporary, nothing that's on the air right now. I mean, unless it's been on the air for like 15 years or something. Nothing that's currently on. And for the Telling Visionaries, they find that they're always in search of good TV, and most of them are kind of trolls. Like, they exist to help bring meaningful conflict into non-Telling Visionaries' life, because that's a thing that enriches the quality of others, and that's a near constant source of conflict for those that follow the faith. They're worth a deep dive, so I'll get you more information on them. Oh, all of these at some point. So if you're looking for a group that is pretty much universally considered protagonists, you're going to be looking for the Sainthood of Ashes. They use a lantern and light as their symbol, their markings, and they exist to help people and to spread wisdom and knowledge. That's it. Like, there are some that are, a little more sinister, like make the good choice for the biggest reason. But for the most part, they're good folks, and they're trying to help. And that's what their faith is based around. Tribes of the Seasons. Tribes of the Seasons are it's kind of a catch-all for lots of different groups that have kind of embraced seasonal changes as part of the structure of their faith. They're not one big blanket group that reports to, you know, one specific person. They're a variety of faiths that all kind of fall in with the same ideology. But there are specific factions that are named out in the literature, which, but if it's something that's kind of tied to the cyclic nature of the world, you know, you'll often find it as tribes of the seasons. So, last on our list, definitely not least, virtues of the king's and queen's court. Music as faith. They find an individual or band that speaks to them. And just like today, they, you know, just like there are really big fans of certain bands today, they emulate them and then try to like find meaning in their verse or their the music. And, you know, they're one of the more feel-good faiths, you know, where you get to have the thing that you like. There's some, you know, contentious or conflict-generating groups, but for the most part, they're good folks. Yeah, that's kind of an introduction to the major faiths. And if you have any questions, or if I messed something up, or if I left something out, please leave a comment, and we'll get stuff added in. If this is something that interests you, I might I might try and put together a a larger explanation, deeper dive into all of these individual faiths. But thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the wasteland.